is going on? Welcome to Look Who's Chalking. It's Andy back with you here with Gary. Sorry we missed out on last week. Do you know how mad the networks were at us that we weren't able to put out a show last week? Oh, that's right. Nobody cared other than the few of you who got angry. But do you know what we owe you? A grand total of nothing. But we're going to try to come out and give you some nice winning lineups. If it makes you feel any better, you know how Gary a few weeks ago said he had one of his worst weeks? That's what happened to me last week. It was a tough week for me last week. I thought I was going to have one. You ever have a week where everything goes pretty poorly, but you have one that does so well it carries your whole week?
Of course.
Well, I thought I was on my way with Hurts double stack, but they kind of went dry in the second half, and then the rest of the lineup was mediocre. And I guess it was one of those high-scoring weeks. I was a minimal casher last week, but I'm going to be looking to improve upon that. So if you're looking for us to be penalized, just know that I was.
Yeah, I mean, Hurts was still great, right? 30.5 DraftKings points. The problem is he's 8K or whatever, and when Trevor Lawrence is going to put up the same amount or more at 5,700, you ain't getting it done, you know? And this is the thing that I've been writing a little bit about this year is like, and we should talk about it here too, because I've told you this throughout the last 2 years as well. I've never cared about quarterback price. It's never mattered to me. I just want to get the top guy. This year is not that way. It's just not. They've made the difference between the top quarterbacks and the bottom quarterbacks way too stark. Plus, some of these bottom quarterbacks are taking these spike weeks more often, like the Jared Goffs of the 2 weeks prior, Trevor Lawrence last week, where the price really does matter because it'll impact the rest of your lineup in a big way. Where previously, you know, we'd have 7-5 Josh Allen and 6-3 Daniel Jones or whatever, and that $1,300 difference is not going to make the difference between 38 points and 24 points. Now it's just completely different. We have $3,000 differences and quarterbacks that are able to score similar points on any given week. And I've completely backtracked my thought on, hey, we do have to be thinking about price of quarterback a little bit. I still want to be including these high price quarterback guys because they do have ceilings for 44, for what we saw to Lamar in weeks 2 and 3. But if those 40-point games aren't going to hit, there is still a good chance that one of these mid-tier quiet guys will hit over 30, and that's when we have to be considering these cheaper guys. You know,
Goff had a good week as well, right?
Yeah, Goff's been good the last 3 weeks. 17 when he was only 5,200 on Thanksgiving, that was viable for you then. But then the last 2, 25, he was optimal in week 13 because quarterback just kind of busted. So he was optimal that week. And then last week he had almost another 30 points. So yeah, Goff was definitely viable. Not perfect, but Lawrence is perfect, but he was viable.
But for what it's worth, I was going to call you Larry. For what it's worth, Larry, I understand that you're adjusting that philosophy and, you know, they always kind of need to be adjusted somewhat, but let's not act like it was foreseen to see Trevor Lawrence. We didn't even know if he was going to play. We had to hope he was going to play. So it's almost impossible to foresee the guy who almost didn't play going off to that extent. Like, yes, you could say, well, Goff was one that he was going to be heavily owned, but somebody like Trevor Lawrence.
Now, Lawrence was hard to land on. There's no doubt about that. I more mean from a macro perspective. So Lawrence was perfect last week, right? Goff was perfect in week 13. And then week 12, Trevor Lawrence again. Week 11, yep. Week 11, Brissett. It's a trend for this whole year. Week 10, Fields, okay. Then we had a bunch of Fields weeks, right? But, you know, and even those, the first couple Fields weeks were cheap Fields, right? 5,300 Fields. So it's only been a
side note. I'm just happy not to see Chalker the third up there every week anymore.
And then we had a couple Burrow weeks, right? And so those were, you know, okay, fine, high spends. But aside from Lamar weeks 2 and 3, and then the couple Burrow weeks, we've had pretty much, Goff was week 4. We've had pretty much a cheap 5K quarterback perfect 11 out of 15 weeks. So
can you argue that maybe this is just like a red run on roulette? That's a lot of R's.
Yeah, no,
alliteration.
It's a small sample.
How do you know for certain? Like, I don't think you want to be adjusting your whole philosophy.
No, I'm not adjusting my whole philosophy. I'm more expanding out my quarterback pool more than I would previously because the difference in price is starker this year, and the ability for the Jared Goffs of the world to come up and score 30 points is higher at 5,200, and they're
Gary,
keeping those prices.
Our first episode, when you said, "Oh my God," you were talking about for season long. You're not doing a full change.
Yeah, what did I say?
And I had a term for it that you started laughing.
The half walk back or something. Yeah, what was it?
He has a, oh, God.
We'll have to go back.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time that you can go back to the first episode, the pilot episode of Look Who's Chalking, and see, he has a something announcement.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's in my head. It's a half something announcement.
Yeah.
Damn it. Anyway, I'll have to think about that.
Well, I'll say that for the season long stuff, I've gone more. This is like a 3/4 announcement now. I'm like all the way in on the spend up quarterbacks on season long now. It just, you look at, I do like the FFPC main events and things like that. You look at all the rosters and that stuff. It's like 80% Mahomes or Hurts that made it through. It's just such an advantage to have those guys now. It's such a stark for season long. I've gone all the way the other way. I love spending up a quarterback.
Okay, well, since this is the hot topic, then why don't we take a look at the quarterbacks for this week and see how this applies? And I'll do my best to let's see if this works, Gary. Hit Command Plus, see if we can give these people. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. All right, so
to me, I'll just give you my macro view real quick. It is somewhat similar to last week where I looked at the slate on the first look show and everything like that, and I did not think there was somebody that just stood out above the rest as like, oh my God, I have to get this guy in spades, right? Josh Allen was playing in bad weather. Hurts was going on the road in division. And, Mahomes had the tough matchup in Denver. So all the spend up guys last week were not guys that I'm like, oh my God, I have to play. So what that made me do is like, okay, I have to take this entire pool more seriously. Maybe I'm expanding out my quarterback options like Trevor Lawrence, like Jared Goff. I had Jared Goff in my pool. I did not have Trevor Lawrence. I did hand build a couple Trevor Lawrence lineups out of the scare that, okay, maybe he could get it done. So I look at this pool very similarly. To me, there's Justin Herbert, who has an incredible spot here at home against Tennessee, who's just becoming a obscene pass funnel. And then there's everything else is kind of just like, okay, I can make an argument for 10 guys here. So I'm not like locked in on any one quarterback this week.
Okay. I'm looking at that. He was the first name that stood out.
Yeah,
I picked them.
Herbert's hell of a spot, We're still waiting on a 30-point game.
With those weapons back, you kind of saw what could be on the horizon. And side note, outside of fantasy, outside of DFS, man, what a nightmare they would cause other teams in the playoffs if they get in. Like, you do not want to, Kansas City does not want to get them in a 2-7 round one matchup. They will throw a monkey wrench into that whole thing if they just randomly get healthy, kind of Patriots-esque Bucks-esque a few years ago, where they win like 3 to end the year and take some momentum into the playoffs. And
I want to know what wins out here, because I think Brandon Staley's a terrible coach, and I think he holds that team back big time. But I think Justin Herbert, remember that week 2 rib injury? I think it was really hurt. I think he's been playing hurt all year, and I think he's finally getting healthy last 2 or 3 weeks. So I want to know what wins out there. Does Herbert's talent and now having all the skill guys back and just the ability to have all that skill on the field at once win out, or is Brandon Staley going to keep holding them back? Because he's a bad coach, and I think he's done after this year if they don't make the playoffs for sure.
I think it's a mix, what you just said. So I do think the coach is no good, but a good coach will be able to make a quarterback sustain what he's doing with those injuries. But when you're relying on the quarterback's talent, like, I don't want to make an excuse, because you see so many other quarterbacks have their weapons taken away and they're able to manage. But with, like, you're talking about both Allen for almost the whole year and Mike Williams, you're dealing with change after that. You're dealing with Everett, who's been a cast-off. The classic Carter-Palmer combo. We've been debating it for years now. We don't know who's going to do well, who's going to play. They never seem to. And then he ends up checking it down to Eckler 15 times.
Oh, yeah, he's setting records for reception. He's 4th in the league in receptions right now or something like that, Austin.
I don't doubt that, but I do think that ain't going to happen next year unless there's more injury to those two big guys. Like, you saw how Mike Williams affected that game the other night. The sideline throws, the touchdown throw.
Opens up the field for Keenan in a big way. I'll say this. I think I'll be playing the most Herbert by far this week. So a couple things. 1, at home. 2, Titans pass defense has been the worst in the league the second half of the season. They're a true funnel, right? We've seen it now a couple weeks in a row. Jacksonville last week. We saw it with Philadelphia the week before that. Just like people are throwing all over them. And then add in the fact that we think Herbert's getting healthier, and look at these pass attempts. And these aren't in blowout games or comeback games. These are close games. 47, 47, 51. The guy, they throw 80%. So, I mean, it's crazy. And we still don't have a 30-point game out of him. I really think this is the week we get a 30-point game out of Herbert this season. I'll be playing like 20+%. We're looking at right now, ETR, we got him at 11% owned. Again, I'm not concerned with quarterback ownership, but the Chargers doubles are going to be so natural this week. that, he's by far my favorite quarterback on the slate. I think it's by
I'm going to give you a sniff on that list. It's going to be under 6K. I know, guys, this is not probably a guy you want to trust, but I think that Cincinnati-Tampa Bay game, it could be one to attack in a wiggly fashion. The two guys you can put with him. Yeah, you can put one of the running backs and whatnot, but when you're looking at Godwin and Evans, it's weird. Try to just rewind to a point where you had faith in the offense. Like if this was last year and I told you Brown and Gronk weren't playing, you can double stack those two guys with confidence. We saw Godwin really get on a roll before last week. And we know, Evans has been grandfathered in, even if he has a couple of bad games. He had that long touchdown, that 70-yard touchdown nullified on a freaking hold
5
last
times.
week.
Every week of the last 5 weeks, he's had a big touchdown called back. Every single one. So he could have had such a bigger season. It's crazy.
Yes, and especially if you see Higgins and Boyd ending up playing, where this may be because Burrow's looked really good the second half of the season, where they're kind of pushing the pace on them too. And also, if they are limited, what a great run back. I know you're going to have to scrape change to fill the rest of your roster, but if you do like a Brady double stack with Chase going back the other way, man, that just could be something that I don't see a lot of people doing, and it's something that you might want to think about if you want to trust a sniffer.
And it's the same situation that we've been talking about, that I've been changing my tune a little bit this year, where usually I would just pick one side of this game. And if you put a gun to my head, I'd still want the Burrow side, but we have a $1,500 difference here. So you could, as we spoke about the other week, I don't remember what the exact example was. But you could, I think it was the Chiefs Bengals, right? Where we were saying, okay, you could do Burrow with, two Chiefs on the run back because Burrow's cheaper, $1,300 cheaper than Mahomes. You could do Brady with a double and 2 Bengals brings backs that could still get there, even if Burrow outscores Brady, because the salary is what you need. You know what I mean? So yes, I agree with you there. My biggest concern is that Bucs offensive line, because we know the one time, the time that Brady can't be effective is when he's under pressure, especially at age 45 now. Like last week, we saw it big time. The Bengals defense is good. They've been much better the second half of the season. This is a very good Bengals team. I think I would not be surprised at all to see them make another run in the playoffs this year. I think they're 9-4 now. They've been great. But this is in Tampa Bay. It's a huge bounce back spot. Brady was embarrassed like no other last week. Maybe the most embarrassing loss of his career, losing out to the last overall pick in the draft in his rookie year and his first career start.
My thought is nobody's going to be surprised when he comes out one of these weeks and has 350 and 4 touchdowns. It's in there. He's still, if you look at his touchdown to interception rate.
17-5. And he still has 3,600 yards. It's not he's still not having a bad year.
I know. And that's what I'm saying. When you want to take calculated gambles, that's a calculated gamble. He's not fit. You're not asking Phillip Rivers to come in here and throw it all. The way you've eliminated Carr from your pool, Brady should be nowhere near that. I agree.
Well, we know we have we have a 2.5-year sample of him on the Bucs putting up those 30-point games. And we had one this year. It's 1 out of 14, but we did have that Chiefs game. I get the Chiefs pass defense has been really bad, but he put up 385 and 3. So if this game plays into that narrative, that was a 41-31 game. You just mentioned you could see it playing that way. Then absolutely. I'm with you. Brady will make my pool this week.
All right. What's your most interesting position that you think?
Well, I think we should talk a little bit more about the top, right? So Hurts, Hurts is the kind of guy that should make your pool every week. I do worry about Chicago's ability to push. This game's in Chicago. Curious what our friends at NFLweather.com have going on this week.
I feel like they're mailing it in this week. I woke up to a tornado warning today.
Did you?
Yeah.
Any tornadoes outside or no?
Yeah, I looked out the window. It was raining. I was just like, when I lived in California, one time I lived right by the water in a place called El Segundo. One time I woke up to a text, "Did you get out of there before the tsunami?" I was because where I lived, it had tsunami evacuation route pictures. If you were just driving, it would just say tsunami evacuation route with a picture of a guy looking up at a wave. And then when I woke up to a text saying, "Did you get out of there before the tsunami hit?" I just was expecting to look out the window and it was going to be the day after tomorrow. I was going to have my final goodbye with this wave washing over me. And today wasn't like that. But I woke up to "Did you get any tornadoes this one?" I was like, "What?"
That is hilarious.
I guess tornadoes are hitting somewhere in the region, but I guess so. Not by me. I think I would know.
That's funny. So no weather in Chicago. Looks like just cold. So I think Hurts is a fine play. Once again, we've had 3 straight 30-point weeks. The guy gets it done with his legs. Like, I don't think people are going to play him that much because he's so expensive and there's all these spend out options. So he's an option. And then,
all right, quiz time.
Yeah, go ahead.
What wide receiver is gonna have a worse game in that one?
Well, this has got to be an AJ Brown week, right?
It has to be an.
It has to be. We've been saying it for years. This is a gritty, cold weather game.
All right, you don't have to go to. It was just a quiz. It was a quiz. You passed.
I agree. All right, then Mahomes, he got against the Texans. Texans have been good against quarterbacks and wide receivers. That's the problem. They've been getting crushed on the ground. It's not like they've been getting crushed through the air. I mean, I'll play plenty of it, but like 8,100, there's all these other options. Like, there's a reason to go away from it if you want.
Yeah.
And then we already mentioned the Burrow Brady stuff. I want both sides of that game. And then I think Dak is the spot that we should attack here because talk about a bounce back spot. I know they won that game, but that was a complete embarrassment. They are still in the running for the division. They need the Eagles to lose one of these weeks, right? But they have every reason to keep playing and playing hard. He has not had a big game in weeks. This is a game in Jacksonville that Jacksonville manages to get in these back and forth shootout games quite often. Should be good weather down there. I know Dak likes the warm weather, like 6,200 only. They lowered his price. I think you could go Dak doubles pretty easily this week. So
Jacksonville, the northernmost kind of city in Florida where you get like that. How about that 62? That's like fall.
It's like dewy.
Ew.
Yeah, no,
that takes the excitement right out of that.
I agree with you. But and then I know he's banged up, but it's Mike White against the Lions at home.
Look at that picture. 7 guys. If I look at your bachelor party, that guy is in the picture.
Yeah, I mean, still very cheap. Best pass matchup you can have. And the Lions' run defense has been very good. So they're in the last 5 or 6 games. So they're begging you to throw on them. So I don't know how much I like Zonovan Knight in that 3 running back backfield this week, but I do like Jets doubles for sure. So there's a ton of options up and down the board here.
The way I'm going to do my thing, I will end this out. I always tell you guys, I do the power sweeps. 3 important entries for me. Looking at that list, absolutely Herbert 1, Brady number 2, and Gary, I think, just convinced me on Dak number 3.
Yeah, I like Dak. I'll say this. I'm staying away. People are going to play Mac Jones this week. He's 5K and he's playing the Raiders. I'm staying away.
Out of here. I don't want.
No, I'm telling you, he's getting ownership. He's getting ownership.
No, everyone's going to play that double backup running back because he's going to be cheap.
Oh, for the Patriots?
Yeah.
I think one of Damian Harris or Stevenson's playing, so I don't think it matters.
It's tough to get over rickety hamstrings and stuff.
Yeah, I think Harris is going to play though. Let's talk about running back. Right?
Natural progression into running back.
I think you could go triple Chargers this week, man. I think you can go like Eckler, one of Keenan or Mike Will. You can go Everett in there. You could I think you could go crazy with your Charger stuff. So Eckler,
okay, Gary is all Chargers all the time. Go Chargers. He's fully embracing it, and I'm not gonna fight him on this one. I am kind of a Chargers guy too. So
yeah. I hate it because I hate the Chargers. Chargers are like my least favorite team in the league. I hate watching them because of Staley. I love Herbert. I hate Staley, and then they just. The amount of 3 and outs they have when they should be just their play calling, their coaching, it's just so frustrating because they have so much talent on the field. But you're right, we haven't seen it all together very often, and now this is the best matchup you're going to get. So if there's going to be a Chargers week where it all comes together, it's going to be this week. So.
And what are your thoughts on running Henry back the other way against the Chargers' awful run defense?
I think it's okay. I mean, it's not this. We like the cold weather December Henry, not the warm weather December Henry, but it's still late season Henry. Defenders are worn down. This is not a good run defense. I think that. Game script wise,
wouldn't you say it's a really bad run defense? That's how they've been gashed all year long.
Absolutely, it's a very bad run defense. This is game script wise. It doesn't necessarily play into your double Charger stacks because you have to think that Titans are going to be forced to throw. But
it's a little weird thing where they know they don't have weapons, and even when they're in comeback mode, they have to still weirdly commit to him.
He's been way more involved in the passing game than he ever has before. He's at least 3 targets every week, so at least you have that. There's a little floor there with that. I think he's got a 10% target share this year. That's totally fine for a running back. So, you got that. And then, I think he's fine. Your bringbacks on Tennessee, I think Burks is questionable. If he plays, you like that.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play. He hasn't passed. He's one of those concussion protocol lingerers.
Yeah, he didn't practice yesterday.
Yeah, usually he's not being cleared.
I think you can go him. I mean, he had another 8 targets last week. I'm talking about Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. He had another 8 targets last week, and at least I like knowing that there are these spike weeks in the bag. In a tough matchup against Denver, he had that 5 for 119 and 2 for 32 points. He had a couple of games last year that he was viable. I don't like Bob Trees is just done now. So like I don't
give him a chance to come back next year though, just because he's an older guy who might need that full
ACL,
year after the torn ACL.
But if I were to have a cheap Titans wide receiver,
I'm half writing him off. Just like
half
you're
right
half.
Half right off. It would be Westbrook-Ikhine for me as the cheap wide receiver bring back, and then you're gonna have
there's got to be a half write off.
You're gonna have Okonkwo again. I mean, Okonkwo was
equivalent.
Okonkwo was great last week. They're drawing up plays for him. So there are Titans brings backs. They're just not necessarily natural, but anyway, other running backs, we talked about Henry and Eckler. I'm totally off Josh Jacobs.
Rusty Austin Hooper, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, Hooper last week was,
I almost didn't even want you to click him.
No, Hooper last week was he's the pivot to Okonkwo, right? He still had 5 targets. So they're using their tight ends.
68. Yeah.
He'll get way less ownership than Okonkwo, who's a lot more exciting with more upside, more athletic profile. So yeah, he'll be the contrarian pivot as he was last week to Okonkwo. But yeah, they both make my pool. I'm totally off Josh Jacobs. He's questionable. I mean, he's been questionable for 4 weeks, but the matchup against New England, no, thank you.
Everyone's playing Pacheco. I've been playing him every week these last 4 weeks, but now I don't think I can.
You mentioned last week, like I had a little bit of a good week last week only because I played a lot of McKinnon at 2%. And, the role for McKinnon is really good right now. It's just as good as Pacheco. The carries aren't the same, but the base down.
It's good, but he's got to take one of those. Like he took 2 of those receptions to the house, but now, okay, last week, 7 receptions. The week before that, 2, 3, 1, and no carries. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to slightly disagree. It fell into one of those.
The snap share is the same. The snap share is the same, and they trust him in close games, and they trust him down the stretch. So if Houston can somehow keep this game somewhat close, he'll get just as many snaps. Your scare is this becomes a Pacheco game just from a grinding down the clock type of thing. But I think they're both good plays. I'll be playing plenty of them both. How can you not play Pacheco this? I mean, Pacheco's got the Texans.
Of course. But I just don't like that. I've been on him the last couple of weeks, and he's been putting 80 in a touchdown, almost 100 total in a touch-down. And now everyone's going to get on.
Week in, week out, it's pretty much split 50-50 their work right now. In a full point PPR DraftKings format, like, yes, I get he's not going to have 7 catches for 119 every week, but there is a floor there. He's getting used more and more each week. I think it's intentional. I think they, same thing we saw last year. They didn't use him until the playoffs. I think they were doing the same thing. They're using him at the end of the season. They're trying to gear up for the playoffs, get him going. He's an old guy with a lot of injury history. I'm a McKinnon fan though. So
can ETN bounce back and have a good week?
I'm off. I think I'm off ETN. He's been bad now for 4 weeks.
That's it. Yeah. I don't want to see his face then.
In Dallas,
how about a guy who hasn't had a game in a while? We saw Ingram out for the year. Now you get Atlanta at home indoors. Now people have probably been disgusted by his production long enough where they're fully off him. This could be sneaky.
Yeah, it's a good GPP play.
Are they still alive in the division?
That's a good question. Yeah, probably. That division sucks, right? So I would imagine they are.
Okay, so just basically they have something to play for, and which means I just think about something like that. If you're still alive, a coach will like run you to the ground. Like as long as you're still in contention, then
probably not. It's 4-9. No, they're out.
Well, 2 games out. With what? How many weeks left? 4 weeks left?
Yeah, I guess they have to win out, right? They'd have to go.
I mean, they're 2 games out. So if they went 3-1, and
yeah, I guess it goes 7-10.
Okay, so they're playing. So they're playing hard is really all I want to know. No random backups and stuff like that.
No, I don't even know. I mean, they signed Benjamin. Off when the
so Kamara's getting work this week.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he's fallen completely out of favor with this coaching staff. There's something weird there. There's the off-field stuff. The fact that they were giving Ingram all that work 2 weeks ago or last week, whatever, was very concerning. But I think they have no choice but to use him this week in the dome in a good spot here. I like Kamara as well. Yeah, I think he's.
So you do like him?
Yeah, I do. I think he's good. I think the Dallas guys are good once again, both Pollard and Zeke. They're both getting equal work. I think it's fine.
Yeah, we mentioned Pacheco.
I think I'm off Connor. Connor's role has been incredible. Played 71 to 73 snaps this past week, 63 of 65. You don't get that. That's like this is like 2002 running back type stuff. So that you have that. you can make the argument that the switch to McCoy is neutral for him, but now you're going into Denver against a team that's playing a little bit better. Yeah. I'm probably more off Connor. Mixing.
What about Sanders there?
Yeah, Sanders. I've been on Sanders all year. I had a decent week last week for two reasons. I played Sanders way over the field, and I played McKinnon way over the field. Sanders had a 30 ball. Excuse me. 8.5 yards a carry. Another pretty good spot for him in Chicago. If they get up big, they trust him to just grind out the clock.
They do.
Has a floor in the pass game, gets 2 or 3 targets a week. I'm all in on Sanders always. They raise his price, but not too much. So I like Sanders.
That's still relatively cheap if you look at his production throughout the course of the year.
Yep. And then you mentioned the Patriots guys. I mean, Damian Harris, questionable, limited practice yesterday. He's got a thigh thing. We'll see about Ramondre. I think he's probably not going to play with that ankle injury.
Yeah. So, anyone in the bunkers you were able to find?
Yeah, that's a good question. So
how about Knight? Oh, but as you said, Detroit's run defense was good.
Their run defense is good, but he's involved in the pass game also, and if they get up big, he might get a lot of carries. He's very clearly the run back one. He'd make my player pool. I'm just a little bit worried about the matchup. I prefer other guys here, but and I'd also put him in Mike White stuff if you're going to play into that. Going all the way down, I don't.
I'd rather you find us something.
Well, I don't know who's going to play. I don't know who's going to play for Houston. So like Dameon Pierce is out. The Chiefs' defense has been terrible. Their backup, I guess, is Marlon Mack. Is that who it is? Who is it?
Marlon. Yes, Marlon Mack. No. Marlon Mack had a big run for
Ogunbowale.
And he catches the ball.
Yeah, but Rex, they're just going to. By the way, we're exactly a year separated from Rex being in a perfect lineup last year in week 15. So he's going to get a ton of work. He's 4,600. He's going to catch passes. They're going to be playing from behind. So I don't know.
My goodness.
Look back at the beginning of the season: 8 targets, 5 targets, 5 targets. They don't mind using him in that game in that way. So he's probably the crust of the league.
Using that.
Yeah, he's the crust of the league.
Wide receiver here, looking at so Jamar Chase, massive respect up there with Adams.
Yep.
Wow,
yep.
8,300 after missing
his
a
most
chunk of the year.
expensive tag of the year, but I mean, 15 targets last week, 10 for 119 on a touch. And really good. I think Adams is a very good play against New England. I think they're much more vulnerable through the air. Devontae's pretty much matchup proof.
There's a chance that both Waller and Renfro are back, right?
I don't know if Waller's going to be back. I think Renfro is back.
I saw they were activated. That just might mean they're practicing again.
Yeah, they had to bring him back for their practice window. So Waller was designated, but I don't think he's going to be back. He might be, it sounds like. But I think Renfro is back this week. So
yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think Adams is good. I think Chase is good. Their price is going to keep people off them. We already mentioned it being more of an AJ Brown week. It's finally a bad Amon-Ra spot, right? And they raised his price up, so he's 7,800. He's still too cheap for what his role is in that offense, and I don't mind him as a bring back. But the Jets' defense might be the best in the league right now. So
yeah. And then a couple spots down, how you thinking about Keenan Allen? I mean, Williams had the really big game last week. Oh, look at him and who's right under him. The two guys that the field has loved every week for 4 years, Godwin and Allen.
Yep. I mean, Keenan's 14 targets each of the last 2 weeks. It's hard to ignore that, right?
Wow.
Could have had a much bigger game, too. He was 8 yards away from the bonus. Still had over 20 points. He's fully back. I love Keenan. And then Kirk. I really like Kirk this week because the Jaguars are going to be forced to throw. Everyone's going to be off him after him busting last week. Evan Ingram went nuts. Zay Jones went nuts. I feel like no one's going to go to Christian Kirk. I was on Christian Kirk last week because everyone was everyone was off him for some reason in that good matchup. But, still had 7 targets. I like him a lot as a bring back in Dallas stuff this week. And then Olave too. Olave gets his best spot of the year maybe against Atlanta. So.
That I'm telling you guys, don't turn your back on Mike Evans like that. I mean, I know you're worried, but God, and I know if you're looking at that picture that we're seeing on our screen, you're still worried. However, you know how it can go for this guy. 2 touchdowns, 2 long. You could be looking at 135 and 2 touchdowns. We've seen it so many times with him. He's not one of these players who's a worse player. You've seen the ability to score. You saw one last week. You just didn't get the points for it because of a flag. Don't dismiss him like he's some bum out there.
Agreed. I agree with that for tournaments especially. Garrett Wilson will be chalk again. Great matchup. He's been incredible. He's going to be chalky.
So DJ Moore had a bad week when everyone played him, but if you look at how he played with Sam Darnold last year, he got a ton of targets last week couldn't be much worse. I think he left the game with an injury, but if he's
got a little
back this
banged
week, is this? Do they have a matchup where you can kind of play him or no?
Yeah, definitely. He's 5,300. He's got Pittsburgh. That's a good spot. Yeah, I like him. And it's another one of those things where, let's see. Yeah, Fields only coming in around 8% right now. Like Fields coming off him. Christian Kirk 6%. Fields coming off these guys coming off bad weeks. Like let's take advantage of that. It's a 10-game slate too.
It's an Andy special. Someone screws you, you never want to go on a second date with them.
It's a small slate too. So like these are good.
I'm here for
spots.
your sloppy seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so good leverage spots on a small slate. Yeah.
Any bunker plays, you usually have that at wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine Drake London, Desmond Ridder is going to be better for Drake London than Marcus Mariota was, who could not push the ball downfield at all. And clearly, London like passes the eye test in every way. 12 targets, he's getting the end zone. He's getting these end zone targets. He just can't get it done because the quarterback play has sucked. And they were running the ball a lot, but they threw the ball 12 times. He had 12 targets in week 13. Coming off of buys, rested. They're going to Ridder. I think they force each other the ball. They're both rookies. They probably had rookie minicamp together. They've known each other now for a while. I like him under 5K in this New Orleans matchup.
So it's basically the old Noah Brown and
the redhead guy. Yeah.
Another guy who went on your bachelor party. What was his name?
Cooper Rush.
Oh yes. Those pictures they got, man. That's so good.
Yeah, no, that's mostly it. I mean, I mentioned Westbrook-Ikhine. Chris Moore last week was big time. I don't think Nico Collins is going to be back yet, or Cooks. So Nico Collins is questionable. Yeah, he didn't practice today, so he's probably out.
So it's gonna be a bunch of Dorsett and Moore again.
Sounds like Cooks might play.
Oh, he's not playing. He's over this year.
He's over this team. That's for sure.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Tight end is a complete shit show this week. If you look at it, it's Kelsey, 7,800. And then we go down literally $3,000, over $3,000 to the next guy. So what I said on the first look show, and I really agree with this, I would just correlate the shit out of tight end this week. It's all punts basically. So just play your stacks, play your mini stacks, play your secondary stacks, play your primary stacks. Like if you want to play Brady, I would imagine they're going to start leaning away from Cam Brate because the guy sucks. Kate Otton's looked pretty good. He's drew on targets even with Brate back. Like throw Kate Otten in your double stacks with Brady every now and then, right? Like 2,900. You need these punts this week. This position sucks. We mentioned these guys on the other side of the Chargers stuff. You could play Conklin or Uzoma with Jets stuff. Like get weird because the position's a shit show.
You're not willing to take like a half loss and get like, hey, look, give me a little Dalton Schultz for 4,400.
Yeah, but
like, what?
I prefer, and look, if there are one-off plays this week, it's Kelsey and it's Schultz and it's Everett probably, and like that's pretty much it. And
if Waller doesn't play, can't you go to Foster Moreau?
Sure, but he's 3,500. It's not like he's back down to those 3,200, 2,900 spots. Like he's still, you're spending a little bit, and like he's shown a floor but not a ceiling really. So I'd rather just correlate my plays as much as I can. Schultz is fine.
Can you give me the Waller notification right there? Just see what they're saying.
Designated from return, opens up the 21-day window. He could officially come back this week, but I don't know if he's on track.
Not coming back.
Yeah. I don't think he's coming back this week. I mean, it's a weird week. What's his face? Driscoll's only a quarterback, right? Yeah. You know, this guy Driscoll's splitting reps with Davis Mills.
Yeah,
he's a tight end. He's the tight end.
Hey, if they didn't give Deebo Samuel running back status, then they're not giving anyone else these duels. Yeah. DraftKings, they're real strict with their player designations at positions.
Yep. But anyway, Schultz,
I guess. Look who's chalking Schultz for me.
Yeah, I like him.
This is a lot of garbage.
I think he's a good play. I prefer him in Dak stuff, but yeah, you could go one.
But what if your secondary stack is taking your advice and playing Kirk and then just throwing Schultz in the?
Yeah. I prefer him in correlation, I should say, but like, it's a good week to punt at the position and get your salary elsewhere because it's such a shit. You know, it's just a good week to do it. So.
I feel you. I feel you. Cool. All right. No, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, how about this? Do we want to, since we both agree so much on Herbert, why don't we do a Herbert? Now, I'm going to give you the option because I know you used to say, if I'm doing a Herbert stack, I got to have Eckler in there. But can't we do a double after we saw, all those targets for Keenan and Mike Williams play such an important role? Can't we do a double with them and save the whatever amount of hundreds that we would have had to pay? Because if there was a game that maybe, Eckler will start to, I don't think they're going to need as much as they've relied on him for throughout the first chunk of the season now that they have these two guys healthy, like fully healthy. They played that full game. They both were utilized a lot, and they're ready, I feel like, to get their full complement of work in there.
You definitely can, and the reason is price. If you recall previous seasons, I don't like playing these guys together when they're both 7,500 and above, right? Keenan was 8K, Mike Will was 7.2, and it's a different story because your ceiling that you need out of both of them is 30 points, and that's hard to get together. But when they're 63 and 68, that's a fine double stack, absolutely. So you could do it.
Okay, can you go to defense just so we can, what I like to do about salary roll? I'll get you. Broncos.
Yep, I knew you were going there.
I'm just getting. I know that will be chalk. Everyone do it. I just want to get something so we can. My favorite thing is looking at average remaining player because I don't want to screw the audience too much. Although I don't care about them. So
you want to bring Henry back?
Favor then?
Bring Henry back, or you want to try?
Well, I do. But yeah, why don't you throw us one of your bunker tight ends first to save some money because we're gonna need Henry.
Why? Okay, so if you want to go Henry, then you don't have to correlate here, right? I would try. You could try a couple of things. I would try one of the Bucks guys, maybe. I would try Otten, and then we could try to get one of the Bengals receivers in, or something like that. If you want a piece of this game, because I know you like this game, so you could do something like that.
So put Henry in there because this is gonna hurt. Ooh,
it's not
right, not that bad.
You could still do this. Watch. You're just gonna have to have a punt. You're gonna have to have a punt.
It's gonna have to be a punt receiver. You can't punt that. Oh my God! Go ahead. Put your awful Houston running back in there. Oh my.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Go Burkhead, and then you got a punt 3,200 guy. Is it Aguilar? 34. Damn.
Yeah, but then you can just go down on defense or something.
He's been great though, because he's no Devontae Parker this week. He's like very clearly established the wide receiver one. The Raiders' pass defense sucks. He's actually going to be played this week, Aguilar, but. I digress.
All right, so throw him in there, and then see who they force you to take on defense.
Go, Falcons,
you gonna tell me the Falcons can't get a pick or two from Dalton?
Look at that. It's a little stars. It's a little stars and scrubsy, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I would do some adjustment. Like that's crazy that Chase is even in there. Like I'm the kind of guy where I probably wouldn't have done that. I would have tried to get like a running back that I like more and find some.
Sure.
No, I mean this is one of those DJ Moore type character. Yeah.
This is a pure GPP option that I don't mind because Otten's not going to draw ownership. I don't think Burkhead's going to draw ownership. So even if you take the Aguilar ownership and the Chase ownership, let's say Chase, I don't know if Chase is drawing ownership, but like you could do it because your cumulative ownership on this lineup is not that high and your upside is really high. I like this lineup.
All right. So what do you want to split the million? What do you want to do with it?
Yeah, let's split the million. we'll have to make one change because everyone's going to play this lineup now. So we'll make one change.
Oh, I already know.
And guess what, everyone? You're not going to know what it is. Screw you. You're going to go have to figure it out yourself.
Yeah. And for me, I already know what it is. So, Gary, enjoy second place. I'll enjoy first place, and I'll see you at the doctor's office where they don't know what they're doing. All right, that does it for us here. Week 14. I hope you 15. I hope you didn't. I still get confused because of the extra week, and I know it's the first week of fantasy football playoffs. So my mind just went to first week of playoffs, week 14, but it's week 15 because that's the new week 1 of fantasy playoffs. Hold on.
Men's Warehouse. Men's Warehouse. We didn't do Men's Warehouse. You got to give the people something.
Just give me something to talk about.
I'll give you. Let me say. I'll give you something. You know what? I gave you mine when I was talking about it all through. I like Christian Kirk. I don't think anyone's going there. I want to play a lot of Dallas stuff. I love him as a bring back. They're going to be playing from behind. The Dallas corners are overrated. But even so, it doesn't matter. He's going to be in the middle of the field. He'll get some targets. Everyone's going to go to Ingram. Everyone's going to go to Zay Jones because he's 4,900. I like Christian Kirk this week a lot.
I'm coming out with a 2010 philosophy. You, with all your guys up there in Chicago while they're trying to brave the elements, and you got people in a windstorm, a sandstorm, a snowstorm. I got tornadoes out the window, tsunami evacuation routes. All this is going on because we're at that point of the year. But you know who's not contending with that? Drew Brees in 2010. You want to know who that is? Alvin Kamara in 2022. Indoors against Atlanta, even if the coaching staff despises him, they're still involved for that division, and they're indoors against Atlanta, and he is one of their few weapons, him and Olave, and in a game where they're probably going to be within a score, there's going to be all the reason in the world to keep him heavily involved in that game when you look for somebody who can probably go bananas in a random spot. We've seen it indoors in that building from him once or twice this year. Don't be surprised if you get the random third this week. I'm going Alvin Kamara to put on that slim fit suit because he's one of those skinny Jamal Charles-esque tight ends. And I'm going with Kamara as my Men's Warehouse pick of the week.
I like that. So we got Christian Kirk and Alvin Kamara. I like them both. I got one question for you. By the time everyone's listening to this doesn't matter. Do you have a lean tonight? Brock Purdy's going to play 49 in Seattle. 49ers are hitting their stride as a team. Seattle's been on the negative side. I think Seattle's getting 3 points, 3.5. So they're getting the hook. They're getting the hook.
I obviously have to I give picks on Odds Shopper. So my basic breakdown was you seen Purdy come in. He's played 2 home games, and those are games where the environment is kind of favorable for him, and they have that plethora of weapons, as you see in that opening drive, Debo on an end-around touchdown. Now, all of a sudden, you take away Eli Mitchell, you take away Debo Samuel, you send a guy to play his first game on the road. They'll do what they can to protect him. In these situations, I'm taking a home dog that's getting more than 3 points. You're talking, if I said this to you as soon as Garoppolo got injured, and I freeze the world and said, who are you going to take 2 weeks from now when this guy goes to Seattle? You didn't see those Seattle losses against Carolina. You're going, oh my God, Seattle. You have to take Seattle. They're almost of the same record. Don't get too influenced week to week. I took the Chargers home 3.5. You're giving me more than 3 against anyone, and you're giving me a home team in prime time, 3.5 points. I'm always taking them. Always in the division. So I'm going Seahawks.
I agree with you. And one of the tougher environments for anyone to play, right? The 12th man, late season. Seahawks are basically, if they lose, they're basically out of the playoff race in the NFC, so they have to win.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that front. I actually asked because I'm in a anti-survivor pool, so like you have to pick to lose every week, and there's it was 3,000 people to start. There's 20 people left. You got to pick 2 per week. I still have the Seahawks left. And I thought about picking them as one of my 2, but I don't think I'm going to because I could see
you out of your mind?
Well, think about what you have left, right? There's very few options left.
It doesn't matter. That's an off. I literally think they're going to win. You should never say that about.
I do too, but I'm at the point where it might not matter if I think they're going to win if they're one of my 2
Do you still
options.
have the Niners as a team to use?
Yeah, I think I do. But that's
I would rather use them.
Well, I'm using the Dolphins in Buffalo. Because I still have the Dolphins this week.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm using the Dolphins.
Okay, so you only need 1 pick, right?
No, you go 2 at this time of year. So after week 14, you got to do 2 per week. So I'm doing the Dolphins, and then I think right now I have the Cardinals in there in Denver, but with the battle of backup quarterbacks. But Denver's playing better. Arizona's, Cliff Kingsbury's on his way out.
What happened to Russell Wilson?
Concussed. I don't think he's playing.
He got cracked.
Yeah, he looked like he fucking was seeing stars on the field there. So anyway, I don't know. The Niners are an interesting one. I mean, no one's going to take them, so and I'm sure some people are going to take Seattle. So it's something to do, but we'll see.
Yo, I promise you, if people are using Seattle tonight, they have a huge chance of losing.
Which would be great, and that's why I almost don't want to touch it. But yeah,
I feel like you're going to see, Christian McCaffrey he could get injured tonight because they're going to give him 35 touches. The thing is, they rely on having somebody to spell the running back. Early this year, it was Jeff Wilson. Then, when they traded for McCaffrey, they spelled him with Wilson, and then they spelled him with Eli Mitchell when he came back. Now they don't even have a guy in there. They're going to run him to the ground. So I would take the over on attempts for him. I would take George Kittle. They have his number at 40. This is going to be like a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
It's not just because of what happened last week. They had Debo for the majority of that game. By the time he left, they already built up a lead. This is going to be a lot harder for them. You're down to Ayuk, Kittle, and McCaffrey. That's it. That's a traditional like offense, and you're asking a rookie prime time on his first road start. That ain't going to be easy. I know Shanahan
in one of the toughest environments, truly.
Yeah,
Like, there's
a team playing for their life.
I get the Niners travel well, but like there's not. Seattle's a great home field.
Yes, so be careful there, you Niners users. All right.
No, that's a good point. It's a great point all around. I'm going to put some money on 3.5 Seattle for sure with the hook.
This is great if people are listening to this and the Niners won.
Niners just crushed. They were 41-14 or something like that. It's possible. They're playing very well. They're playing very, very well.
They're playing fantastic, but I'm telling you, a lot of that's you guys. I know my Shanahan guys, and that's all predicated on having that plethora of weapons. Like, you look at how they scored that opening touchdown when you're rolling Debo on reverses, and a lot of that's gone now. He is such a jack of all trades out there. He had 50 yards through the air. He had that rushing touchdown. And now you take him out of that. Oof. That could be rough.
You also get them. You also get the Seahawks in the best spot, right? Coming off a really bad loss to the Panthers, right? So it's like,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot going.
Plus public. Oh my God, yeah. This is all Seattle. The more I say, we'll see how that goes, Gary. Good luck to the Chargers and us, because if they bust, we've led people quite the wrong way. But I feel pretty.
They're going to bust. By the way, anytime I get confident in Justin Herbert and the Chargers, they're gonna screw us all. I'm telling you. If you really want to save your money this week, don't listen to us. That's
no.
Keep the ownership low. Keep the ownership low. You don't want to play the Chargers.
You don't want to play the Chargers. All right, everyone, take it easy. We'll be back with you next week. Do me a favor. You subscribe to our channels. You find me on social media. I'm trying to do this thing where if I can get my account to 10,000 followers, they open up a whole plethora of tools to me that will allow me to utilize more features that will even help this show, my other shows, my personal stuff. So I'll really appreciate that. And don't think I don't know. I see who does what, and I keep mental notes. So who knows, down the road, I may be able to help you. Maybe I can get you tickets to Monday Night Raw. All right, everyone, take it easy.
Fucking chalk. Rick, 8 units Mountain View.